Have you ever stopped to think about the fans behind a band? What is it about the music that keeps fans coming back for more? Or is there more? My name is Renae Lipsmeyer, and I am the host of this podcast, The Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. Each week, a fellow DMB fan joins the show to discuss their journey with the band. Welcome to the Space Between Podcast. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Space Between Podcast, the podcast where we talk about the fans of a band that has been putting out music for over 30 years. So if this is your very first time to listen or watch this podcast, thank you so much. We are going to talk about the Dave Matthews Band. If you have never heard of them, this is a great time to be introduced to them. They are rocking the whole world, literally still to this day, after more than 30 years, which blows my mind to even say that. Just the stamina behind that. I'm like, how do you get that? I need whatever you're doing, which, So every week I bring on a fan of the Dave Matthews Band to share their journey because everyone found the band at a different time, in a different way than anyone else. And so I love the story of the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. So this week, of course, I have a guest. Erica, thank you so much for being on the show. Tell our listeners who you are, where you are, and when was the very first time you ever heard of the Dave Matthews Band?
Thank you so much for having me, Renae. My name's Erica Berger, and I currently reside in Raleigh, North Carolina. And the first time I ever heard of the Dave Matthews Band was probably back in 1994. And I was in a youth group. I had a friend who had an older sibling who I think went to UVA. And we were at like a convention. And my buddy Jason Kaplan, I will never forget him. Jason Kaplan brought a couple mixed tapes. And his brother had been at a show at UVA or like a frat party. Someone had recorded it, obviously, and had a couple random songs on a mixed tape. And I just immediately fell in love with the music. And after that, became an avid follower, listener, went to all the shows. So I've been a fan of Dave Matthews Band since I was 14 years old.
Wow. Isn't that crazy to think of? And I think that's unheard of in these days that people have been fans of one band basically their whole life. Like that is a story in itself. I mean, that's wild.
It reminds me though, like you think about, maybe our parents or grandparents' generation where they like right now, everything is Dead and Co., right? People have been following but people have been following the Grateful Dead for like 40, 50 years, and then their kids pick it up.
Yes.
So like, I don't know of another band currently that I think has this sort of generational listener where we've just, it's 30 years almost. I've been listening to Dave Matthews Band.
Wow.
Bananas. A lot of life lived.
Wow. I mean, but also it's such a beautiful story because look at all the changes that you have been able to witness. And then, we're going to talk more about like kind of what that's done to your life because I know the story. And if you listen to this podcast a few episodes back, her husband was on the show. And so I love this because now I get to hear the other half of the story, right? Because like his story was very much like, here's where I found, and this is where I found her. And I love how he was like, I loved her immediately because she like loved the Dave Matthews Band. And so I loved that part of it. And so now I get to hear your story up to when you met him and then how it kind of proceeded after that. So you found the Dave Matthews Band, you've got a mixtape, you're listening to them. Yes. When is the first time that you get to see them with your eyes?
So I think the first time I actually got to see them was in 1996 at Walnut Creek Amphitheater, which used to be called the Hardee's Walnut Creek Amphitheater.
Hardee's.
Now I don't know if it's Federal Credit Union, whatever. But so I saw them 1996 and then also saw them in Charlotte, traveled around kind of the North Carolina area, again, when I was about 16 years old. So that was the first show I ever saw, was the summer of 96, which, if everyone is familiar with the band, that was the Crash Tour. And, I wish I still had my t-shirt. I know they still make them, the white t-shirt with the big Crash logo on the back and the little pocket tee.
Yeah.
I missed
You
that
wish
one.
you would have that framed. It's
I
a
wish I had it
relic.
somewhere. Too long ago.
So do
But
you
yeah,
remember
that's
like when you first saw them on stage? Because there's such a change between just hearing them and seeing them. Do you remember like anything that stuck out to you about their performance?
so, the 90s music scene was all over the place, right?
True.
And I actually was a big Indigo Girls fan. Like when
Yeah.
I say, you find your music and you're like, okay, I grew up listening to like Stevie Nicks and Fleetwood Mac and the Beatles, a lot of classic rock, the Eagles, Crosby, Stills and Nash, Allman Brothers. Like grew up in the South listening to kind of like a lot of classic folk rock.
Yeah.
And around the similar time, right before I found Dave, I found the Indigo Girls. My best friend Jessie, who is still one of my besties to this day, her and I found the Indigo Girls and really like dug into listening to them. But I remember listening and hearing Dave Matthews Band for the first time. I think the first song I ever heard was Ants. With that,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
like there's nothing like I still have chills thinking about the uniqueness that was the Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah.
And you had Dave wearing these like ridiculous like flannel like hammer pant pajamas.
Before he had a
And
stylist or even cared a little bit. I
I
don't know.
know. But you had this like mishmash of types of music.
Yeah.
And, amongst all the rest of the music that was happening in the 90s, it really stood out to me as this just like, I can't sit, I must dance.
Yes. Yes.
Like this joyful kind of like exhibition
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
of pure fun.
Yeah.
And a lot of my friends were really into Dave Matthews Band also at the same time. And I remember driving out from the Raleigh show afterwards, going out to Charlotte with my friend Liz. We were 16 years old in my 1994 Nissan Altima is my car that I
Yeah.
had.
That was
This
a
little
cool
like
car.
it was great, man. It's a little manual transmission,
Oh yeah.
windows down, listening to Lion Our Graves, like
Mm-hmm.
literally like screaming at the top of our lungs, driving from Raleigh to Charlotte to go to the Charlotte show. And core memories are made.
Yeah.
But there was such just a uniqueness to their sound
Yeah.
at the
Yeah. I
time
agree.
where, you've got grunge and kind of like that 90s kind of pop and Mariah Carey
Usher
and
was start. No, wait, was it Usher?
yeah.
Was Usher then, or was it? Oh no, Keith Sweat. That's who I'm thinking of. Keith
Oh
Sweat. Like
yeah.
I hear that, and it takes me right back to high school. Like on the sidelines, at the football field. Like, ooh, I love the way music can like transport us to times where we would otherwise have forgotten that moment. And I'm gonna guess that probably every time you hear "Lie in Our Graves," you're like, I'm in the car and I'm driving, with my friends, and
Yes,
that's beautiful.
100%.
That's
Every single
beautiful.
time. Wind in your
Yeah.
hair. And I remember she never knew the name of the song. She would always like, I think it's either number 7 or number 9 on the CD.
Uh-huh.
And she'd be like, put on number 7 or number 9, whatever it was. She never knew there was Lie in Our Graves. And I was like, all right, yay.
Just number 7, number 9, whatever.
Now
it
I'm going
is.
to have to look it up and be like, what number was it? Because I can
Oh,
never
I don't
remember.
know. I don't know. That's a whole level of trivia that I have not gotten to, and I don't think I will. Like that's just
That's a
way out
question
there.
that's a Mike question that he would know the answer to.
Oh, dang. Okay. Well, testing. What do you know about this album?
Tell me exactly what the songs in order chronologically are.
Yes, yes. Can you do it? So you go through all of that, and I know the future, right? Like I know that, of course, you met a lot of people. You really got involved in the community, but when you meet somebody that says they like the Dave Matthews Band, it's like you're automatically like, oh, we're about to be friends. And if we're not
Yes.
friends, I'm going to talk to you a lot about it because I know that you want to hear it, right? And so I know that you met your husband along the way. Kind of take us through that story of where, when, how, because I want to hear your side of what he said.
It's like the movie Sliding Doors. It's like the,
Yes, I
the
love
one
that.
side of the
It's
other
all
of
coming
what could happen.
together.
So the same best friend, Jessie, who is still my best friend, she ended up going to Maryland. She's a year older than me. I went to go visit her, was like, gotta go to this college. This place is amazing. It was your quintessential, like, green grass, red brick buildings, white columns, kids playing frisbee on the lawn. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, this is college, gotta go here. So
Yeah.
I get in, thank goodness.
Yay.
And she takes me to like an open mic night thing at I don't even remember what it was. And we're like hanging with some friends at this college party. And she introduces me to a friend of hers who's like dating this frat guy. And I was like, okay, whatever. And the frat guy invites, has a party. And then all my friends, as you do in college, you're like, oh,
Right.
cool, a frat guy and a party.
Oh, yeah.
So I go to this party, and I'm like getting ready to leave. It's sort of towards the end of the evening or whatever. I'm waiting for the shuttle bus. So, because lowly freshman doesn't have car transportation.
Nope.
And it's funny because Mike will tell you that I walked in the door to the frat house, and my story is that he walked in the door to the frat house. And to this day, neither one of us
will never know
who's right.
We'll never know. There's no video footage. There was no iPhones back then where you could record everything we did.
None of it. Nope. There's nothing.
Thank God. Can I say that? Thank God. I did not have those tools back in my youth because, that would have been bad.
I'm glad we were raised in an age where our shenanigans were not recorded on the internet.
No,
I know they happened.
Oh yeah, I do too. But my kids never have to know about half the shit I did.
No, not at all.
So whoever walked in the door, somebody walked in the door, and
walked in the door, and he came over. He'll tell the story I was the president of the fraternity, and so I always kind of was. Looking for people who I didn't know you're in my house. I should go greet you and, be the presidentially type person that he is. And so he came over and he was like, hi, I don't know you. I'm Mike. And I'm like, hi, I'm Erica. And so he sat down, we started talking. And one of the first things, because this was right after, this was my freshman year, right when I kind of got to college, maybe a month or two in. And so we were kind of coming off on the heels of whatever that summer tour 98 would have been.
Right.
And so somehow we got on the topic of Dave Matthews Band, and I was like, oh, I love the Dave Matthews Band. And so he's like, yeah, me too. And we talked about the shows that we went to this summer. And I was like, hey, that friend Jason I told you about, we still would trade CDs. And now at this time we've moved from tapes into burned CDs.
Moving up.
And I was like, hey, I've got this really cool summer mix tour bootleg. I'm giving you guys air quotes. But they were tape at the time, and this was allowed, the band allowed, tapers to come in and tape the shows. So I said to Mike, I was like, hey, I'll make you a copy next time I see you. He's like, oh yeah, cool, sure. And so I go back to my dorm room and I'm like, dude, I love this guy already. Head over heels. And I was like, I'm going to make him the CD. I was like, maybe if I make him the CD, maybe he'll like me, and then he'll ask me to be his girlfriend, and then we'll live happily ever after. But he had a girlfriend at the time, and I was dating someone at the time, but this was all happening in my head.
Yeah.
So I had started actually dating, this sounds so taboo, I was dating a fraternity brother of his. Very
of course you were.
Casually. And so this fraternity brother was like, come down to the house, we're having a party or whatever. And I was like, all right, well, you're going to come pick me up. And he was like, no, take the shuttle bus with your friends. I was like, first of all, not cool, but whatever.
No.
Is what it is. Well, Mike apparently was in the room with this guy, and he was like, who are you talking to on the phone? And he's like, oh, I'm talking to Erica. And he's like, well, I got to go back to my dorm and pick something up. So tell her I'll pick her up and I'll bring her to the house. And I was like, well, that's really nice. Maybe he's thinking, oh, he's the president of the fraternity, and this is just a nice thing to do, whatever. Sure. So I was like, all right, I have my mixed CD ready to go. Also, unbeknownst to him, he was thinking it was just me and that we were going to ride off into the sunset or something like that. But I come out of the dorm room with 5 of my friends.
No privacy.
Cram everyone into his car. And I was like, oh, hey, by the way, I made you that CD. And he was like, oh, wow, that's amazing. Well, from Mike's perspective, he's like, she totally loves me.
Yes, that was what he said in his story, is the moment you handed him that, he knew that he loved you.
And we were friends for a good year after, the time we met until we started dating. We wrote letters to each other through one summer. He worked at a summer camp, in West Virginia. And so, again, this is early 2000s, late 90s, early 2000s. So we didn't have magic cell phones and text messaging and the internet.
Nothing.
You wanted to talk to somebody, you had to pick up a telephone, or send an email. But if you were somewhere that there was no AOL,
And even then, that was in the time of long distance phone calls. Do you remember that?
oh yeah,
Like we, in my childhood, we like went through that. Like it was a big sin to call someone long distance. Like my parents were tracking you on their phone bill, right? And so even in the late 90s, early 2000s, like you had to call after 9 or whatever.
that's
Like that
right.
was your free time to
That's
call.
right.
Boy, have we come a long way.
I know. Access 24/7.
Crazy.
But yeah, so we wrote letters to each other and then started dating in the fall of '99. And then we started going to see shows with each other, I believe, that following summer.
Dang.
Or 2 summers later, I want to say. Actually, I don't know if we went in 2000 or not. But yeah, so it's Mike and I have been seeing Dave shows for the last 20 some odd years together.
So I have to ask only because like I want to know, but I think also listeners, since you've gone this far in your story and you've kind of told us some
Yeah.
things, like how long did it take for you to break up with his fraternity brother and how long did it take for him to break up with his girlfriend in order for y'all to get I mean, I have to ask this because like I want to know and it's old news, so just tell us.
Yeah. No, I broke up with a fraternity brother like 2 months after we started dating. I mean,
Gotcha.
look, if you're not willing to go pick up your girlfriend from her dorm room across campus, come on.
Yeah. You
What
need to get
else?
excited. Yeah. Stop.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, of
It
course.
took him a few more months later, which is why we were friends for, the good part of a year. But he broke up with his girlfriend. I was single, and that was it.
The stars all aligned and there
Stars
you
all
were.
aligned. That's
Oh
right.
my God.
Yeah.
So were shows more, of course they were, but I'm going to ask you this. Were they more fun with him and to have that person that you could kind of bounce that talk off of and be like, oh my God, did you hear what he just did? I mean, that just made it a whole new level of fun, right?
It definitely did because while I had a lot of friends who loved Dave Matthews Band, like I didn't have anyone who like loved Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
you have people who are like, oh, they're cool. Yeah, sure, I'll go to
Right.
a concert summer tour with you. Like a lot of my
Yeah.
home friends were way more into like the Allman Brothers and like Hootie and the Blowfish, which I loved Hootie.
Oh,
I
me
loved Hootie
too.
and the Blowfish.
Me
I'm going
too.
to see them in September, but
Yes.
there was such a kind of an evolution of music at the time, and I just didn't really have a lot of like Dave
Mm-hmm.
friends. I had
Mm-hmm.
some of my old youth group friends who were still Dave friends, but nobody lived near each other. So, that was the time in the summer you get together with your friends and see them meet up at
Yeah.
shows.
Yeah.
But Mike and I mean, if I look at my hub, and I like I said, since the early 2000s, there's not been a show that I haven't been with him at.
Wow. Oh, that's great.
And
Oh,
so
that's
like
so
all
good.
of our first experiences, things like first time getting like front row at a show,
Yeah.
first time getting rail,
Yeah.
first time when we went to Dave and Tim Mexico and Dave and Friends, and all of our firsts have been together, which has
Oh,
been
that's
really fantastic.
awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And honestly, like kind of rare if you want to know the truth. Like I do talk to a lot of people just because that's the nature of this podcast. And so that's not always the story that two people are completely in love with the same band. And so
Mhm.
man, you hit the jackpot.
We're very,
Yay.
I do like wake up every day and I'm just like, thank God for Mike.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
kind of just the chaos of the world, to be able to have somebody who's like a real true partner that
Hmm.
I can trust and I can rely on, that likes the same things that I like generally. Like I still love the Indigo Girls. I still go to the Indigo Girls. He does not come with me, and that's okay.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta have your own
He's cool
stuff.
with it. I'm cool with
Yep,
it.
yep, yep.
But for us to be able to like love a band and chat about things like the podcast that Mike and I have, he mentioned that on
Ooh,
his
yeah, we're gonna
episode.
talk about it. Yes.
But to be able to talk to somebody like across the table from you every single day, having coffee and being like, all right, let's talk about last night's set, or oh my gosh, the poster, or what do you think is going to come up and happen this year? And it's been really fun because we're just really just casual about it, but it's just
Right.
kind of like holistically like grown in a way that I don't think either one of us really even thought about.
Right. I mean, it is literally woven through your whole relationship. So how could it not come up, right? That's just
Right.
normal for you guys. That's even kind of, if that's not technically how you met because you met at a fraternity party, but that was like the connection that you were
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm
Yep.
going to talk to you again. Here we
That's
go.
the spark. That's the
Yeah,
spark. And
yeah.
you talked about that when you meet somebody who is like, oh, you're interested in this. Oh, well, let me talk to you. But you're like my new best friend now because you have sort of an immediate connection. And I think, you talk to a lot of Dave fans. I mean,
Hmm.
just the nature of your podcast, but like you go to shows too, you have
Yeah.
friends that you've met through the band.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but like, kind of a hard to meet people world,
Sure.
the litmus test of, oh, you love the Dave Matthews Band, oh, you're going to a show, like we immediately kind of bond over something that you don't really have to worry about all the rest of the stuff of the
Right.
world and be like, let me get to know you. It's almost like I've kind of already checked the box of like, you're a good human.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I mean, and this is just me, so take it how you want, and whoever's listening to this, take it how you want. But I love that in my Dave Matthews Band world, no one, for the most part, yeah, we get to know each other, but like my first question to you is not going to be like, well, what do you do for a living? Honestly, I don't give a fuck what you do for a living. I don't want to talk about the band. And that's really all. And I say that because, like, yes, I do care about those things, but like, that's not what I need to know first off the bat. Like, I don't care where you come from, all your problems in the world. I want to be friends with you because we share a common love. And because of that love, I am going to get to know you and I am going to be there to support you in all your stuff. But, it is so hard to meet people. And I think that, in any other atmosphere, whether it's like, a chamber, event or, whatever's going around town, there's that awkwardness of meeting people, even at my age where I feel like I should be used to talking to people, but it's just hard to talk to strangers. And so, oftentimes people will go, well, hey, where do you live? Where do you work for? Those are just the questions that we pop out. And so all of that awkwardness is kind of just taken out of the scenario there. And so there's some comfortability in meeting new people. And so that's kind of the chase. And what I've found to love about other Dave fans is we can kind of set everything aside and just kind of focus in. And then if it happens to be that we get to know each other on a deeper level, then I love that. But if not, that's cool. We can talk about Dave all the time. So it's been really good. So obviously I know the future. You guys went on, you got married, you've had some kids. So talk to me
Yeah.
about your kids.
We've got a teenager and a tweenager,
Yes, yes,
the in
yes.
betweens,
Oh yeah.
boy and girl. And I think Mike might have mentioned this on the podcast. So I don't need to duplicate things, but our son, from the time he was like an itty bitty baby, we had a CD that was the Lullaby Baby of
Oh
Dave
yeah.
Matthews
Yeah. I love that.
and I used to play that for him in his crib. And then he got older, and he graduated into listening to Under the Table and Dreaming. And I think if you ask him, actually, he's driving.
Oh
So,
my God. Does that make you nervous?
we're the first couple of times, yes. The first couple of times, I'm like the holy shit bar,
Yep.
white knuckles, like breathing real heavily, like needed a stiff drink after I got out of the car
Yes.
that first couple
Yes.
times. But he's doing a great job.
Yeah.
And now we get to kind of enjoy some time together as we drive. And I usually have on XM radio, Dave Matthews Band XM
Of
radio
course.
on. And so we're actually, next week, we're going to West Palm Beach, taking the kids, going to both shows. And we've taken the kids to several shows so far in the last, I would say, like kind of post-COVID years.
Uh-huh.
And they love it. And we took them to Charlottesville last year, took them to Pittsburgh, took them to Raleigh the year before. So they've gotten
Dang.
kind of a good feeling about going to concerts and shows. And so I asked my son, I was like, so what are you excited about? Like, always asking, like, I'm like, what's the song you're chasing?
Sure,
right? What
sure,
song
yeah.
do you want to hear? For us who's been to, a bunch of shows, we have the chasers, like never
Yeah.
heard this or have only heard this,
Yeah.
once. And so I asked him today, I was like, so what do you want to hear? He's like, I'm not sure if they're going to be playing it, but I'd like to hear Madman's Eyes. And I was like, well, we heard it a bunch last year because it was a tour year for the album release. And we're 1 year out from Walk Around the Moon. And so I was like, what do you want to hear? And he's like, I'd like to hear Madman's Eyes. I was like, really surprised by that one.
That's
But
awesome.
he loves Satellite. He loves Two Step. He loves Halloween. I'm like, dude, very rare
It's a
for
rager.
it's a rager, but he's heard it before. He's been lucky enough. He heard we were in Raleigh a couple years ago. I want to say it was 22, and it was a pump fake into Halloween. And so yeah, he got to hear Halloween, which I was like, dude, Like,
I mean,
I
I
love
like
Halloween.
Halloween. I love every song. Whatever.
Makes my
There's not a
throat
song
hurt.
that
I'm sorry.
but like more than anything, I mean, I like hearing it, but I like watching Dave perform it because there is so much screaming in it. And, there's just so much that's like coming out of him. It
It's
takes
raw.
so much to sing that. And it's fun to watch, honestly. So I find
Yeah.
myself listening and watching very intensely, like, okay, how big is that vein going to get on the side of his neck? Because it's always like,
Hmm.
it's such a fun song.
But our daughter, our tween, she loves "Oh Joy Begin."
Oh
She
yeah.
loves "Monsters." It's one of her favorite songs. So it'll be really fun to see their experience. Every year they get a little older, so it gets a little easier
Oh yeah. Of
to
course.
take them to shows. But yeah, I'm pretty excited. We're gonna, and speaking of friends that we've met through Dave and the band, not Dave specifically, but
We
the
wish.
community, we're getting together. I don't even know. I couldn't even count how many friends we're meeting down in Florida this week,
Oh,
and
that's
I'm
awesome.
just so jazzed about it because
Right.
some we haven't seen in 2 years, some we haven't seen, in a year. Some people I've never met,
Right.
that are like our internet friends that are now become real life
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
friends.
I've never met you, and we're
I
meeting.
know.
It's happening. Yes.
It's so exciting, because I joke. I think the first time, do you know Steph? Two Steph
Oh, I
41.
do. I do.
Okay,
Yes.
Two Steph is one of my original dearest internet friends, and we met for the first time at Dave and Tim, Mexico 2 years ago.
Uh-huh.
And I just like have this moment of like, you talk about your memories of being like, okay, we're gonna meet. We were at the show. I'm in line to get the picture on the beach with the big moon, and she's like, I'm coming to meet you. And she's like running down the sand. And I'm like, Mike, stay in line. I'm running up the sand to go meet her. And we like hug. And I was like, you are my friend that I have known on the internet, that I traveled internationally. Now I'm
Right.
meeting in a foreign country.
Right. I wish I had that in slow mo. Y'all just running down the beach, like.
That's
She's so
how I
sweet,
remember
though.
it.
She's so sweet, and
Yeah.
she always posts like these amazing pictures. I don't, I don't. She's a great photographer. Like the things that she does take, and so I really enjoy following her. I did get to meet her, and it's funny that you should say Mexico, but that is where I met her for the very first time, was in Mexico. So
Yeah.
she's
That's a
everywhere. I mean, I
special.
know that she just went to Europe, and so dang, it's like,
Yeah.
just put me in your bag, Steph. Like take me
She is a
everywhere.
special human, and I adore her beyond adore. But yeah, it's just amazing the people that you meet, and now, like you said,
Absolutely.
those immediate connections. And I have
Mhm.
friends that I talk to pretty much every single day, like text
Yes.
messaging, voice messaging, and they're my day friends.
Yes, yes, I agree. It's turned into this. I mean, it is my life now. Like it is a part of who I am, and I'm thankful for that. I just, even before the podcast and things like that, that I just had these near and dear friends who, again, were just my daily contacts, like the people that I talked to, because I did get to that level where it was like, okay, let's get to know you.
Hmm.
That way I can kind of, invest in your life and you can invest in mine, and we have those day things where we talk about, hey, my kid's sick, or it's
Yep.
my kid's birthday, and we show up for those things, right? Because they're family at that point. And
Yeah.
I think that there's, if someone's listening to this and they've never listened to a Dave podcast before, I'm going to say family a lot, because that's what fans often refer to each other, is because we do become a sense of family. And family is definitely not always blood, that is for sure. And so we have adopted each other as brothers and sisters. And so it has been such a beautiful thing. So I know that you guys did something similar to what I did, and what a lot of other fans are doing, is taking it to the podcast world and talking about something that we're passionate about. I found an audience of people that want to hear about Dave. And I'm like, finally, because no one around here cares at all about Dave Matthews. And so it's been so much fun. And so, of course, I know that you and your husband have a podcast. So I want you to tell us all about that, in case someone hasn't listened to your husband's episode, but is listening to yours for
Yeah.
the first time. Tell me, like, first, how in the world do you get to the idea of like, we should start a podcast? And like, who came up with that idea?
So I am a spaghetti brain type person, and when I say spaghetti brain, I just will get like a wild hair, and all of a sudden I'll be like, well, we should do this,
Yeah.
and it might stick, it may not stick, But I was in sales for 20 years. I moved into HR as a profession, and I actually started a very, very small, briefly lived podcast myself called Selling to HR. Because I thought, you know what? Every day I get like hit up on basically on
Uh-huh.
LinkedIn or phone calls or prospects, and they would call me and they would be so awful, like terrible. And I was like, you guys are missing the mark in your audience. So I started a very little podcast that, I was kind of doing for funsies, just as
Yeah.
like I thought this might go somewhere.
Yeah.
And it was really easy. And I was like, it's really easy to start a podcast. Like, not that
Yes.
it's,
I
there
got
are
you.
varying
Yes.
ways, but like you can start one fairly easily now with the technology that we have.
Yes.
And, that was actually just about a year ago. Mike and I went to go see Dave in Wilmington, North Carolina. And we're sitting around having coffee, and again, we're big poster collectors, like have been collecting posters for a good 15 plus years,
Wow. Wow.
and have a pretty extensive collection. And so we're talking over coffee one morning, getting ready for the tour. We're like, oh man, I mean, what artists do you think we're going to see?
Yeah.
Are you excited about, blah, what do you think? And I like joked, I was like, this would totally be a really good podcast. And Mike is very like logistical and like
Mm-hmm.
process driven brain,
Yeah.
and he was like, man, that's a lot to like. And I was like, no, I literally can do it on my phone right here. Here's an app, and we can just hit record and just see what happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we kind of plotted out like topics and kind of like wish lists of like, boy, it wouldn't be really cool like if we could maybe one day interview artists that do the posters. And so we started Posters in Every Direction as a play on words,
I
people in every
love that
direction.
title by the name.
And
I love that.
it is obviously it's probably more Dave centric based on
Mm-hmm.
the poster scene, but we like to talk about that we are, merch and art, and we're kind of art and music collide. And so we are actually just about to drop our 41st. It's very special. 41st episode.
Congratulations.
And we've had on, I'd have to go back, we've had on like half a dozen artists already, ranging from Luke Martin to Jim Mazza. We just had on Robert from Methane Studios, Robert Lee
Holy
from
crap.
Methane Studios. We have talked to friends who are also poster collectors and fans of the band, and artists. And so it's just become this really fun, joyful thing that Mike and I do. Like I said, I'm still spaghetti brain, so it's like, what do you want to do today? Let's drop the podcast. Okay.
No, I
So
think it's perfect. And you hit a topic that of course is it's such a big part of so many fans' life. Like, we all know people that will get up at 5 a.m. so that they can go stand in line and be like
yeah.
the first 10, 20, 30, 40 people, because there are so many posters that are, going to be collectors based on their artists, but also, they're beautiful. So many of them are just beautiful. And so the poster game is a solid game when it comes to the Dave Matthews Band. I'm sure that every band has a type of poster, I guess. But the Dave Matthews Band is known in our world for always producing some incredible art, such
Mhm.
detailed, beautiful stuff that you can hang in your home. It's not just Dave Matthews Band. That's not just what it says. Like it is art. And so I think that that's really cool that you've been able to not only talk about it, but pull in those artists to talk about like, hey, what was the process? Like, how did you come up with the idea? What was the concept behind this? Because I definitely wonder, about that, because, I've seen posters where, let's say, for instance, the New York City poster with the Statue of Liberty. Okay, I understand why you did that. But like, there are other posters that are not as clear. And, like, oh, how did you come up with that one? Because, I don't know I don't know much about that city. And so a background story is always fun to know. So definitely, guys, if you're listening to this, be sure to check out Posters in Every Direction. Of course, if you were able to find this podcast, you can definitely find theirs. So, the podcast world is booming. It's everybody, is listening to a podcast, has a podcast. And I think that's great because we've the public has been given a microphone and we can say things to people that want to hear. If you don't want to hear, you don't get in our podcast, and that's cool. But like, it's just been so nice to have a voice about things we're passionate about. And, I'd love to mention all of the different podcasts that come to the Dave Matthews Band. If there are some that we don't talk about, definitely let me know, let Erica know, because we want to know. I personally listen to all of them. And Erica and I were talking about this before we started recording. I think that each one, when it comes to the Dave Matthews Band, has found their own little part, and none of them are doing the same thing. None of them are talking about the same thing, but yet it's all about and all because of this band. And so what are some of these special Dave Matthews Band related podcasts that you listen to?
So, been lucky enough to become friendly with the amazing crew over at the pod that Jane likes.
Yes.
I adore them. Their podcast is so fun. I appreciate them because, like, we were talking about, you said something about trivia later, and I am, I know enough about the band, I think, but like, I really appreciate, I believe it's Sean and Matt all do the DMB Society and the Almanac over there. And their extensive knowledge is just amazing.
Yes.
Trisha, adore her. We've become Goose fans together as well.
Oh yeah.
And Jeanette, and she's a Swiftie also. So
oh my God, Taylor, I love her.
So adore them. And then, I mean, the OG is the Corner of Gray Street.
Yeah.
And I have the most bizarre story, if you have a minute.
Yeah,
about
of course I do.
I think the random nature of the universe. So I mentioned Goose. Becoming a new favorite of mine.
Such a great band.
Mike. Such a great band. And so we were lucky enough to go see their shows up in Hampton, Virginia in December of last year. And so we did a little road trip with my friend Jessie and her husband Andy. I was talking about Jessie before. And we're driving up and we're like, we are going to stop at Wawa, because you know what? North Carolina doesn't have Wawa, and Wawa like subs are superior to all places in the world. If you're not in an area that you have Wawa.
I don't have anything. I'm in Arkansas.
Okay. So for those who don't know Wawa, like think like Sheets, but like 1,000 times better than Sheets.
I don't even know what that is. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness.
All I know is Walmart. I live in the Walmart world. That is all I know.
Wawa's a gas station that happens to have a really great sub sandwich.
Is it like Buc-ee's?
Kind of. I mean, not as oh gosh, Buc-ee's is like so like a circus. It's just like so overwhelming.
It's everything. What you need, Buc-ee's has got it.
Yes. But no, Wawa's been a place that we've adored since college, because it's mostly it's a Pennsylvania based gas station chain. But they have them in Virginia. They do not have them in North Carolina. Actually, yes, they do. They just opened one in the Outer Banks, but that's too far for me. So we stop at Wawa. We're like getting sandwiches. We're like, it's really nice. Let's just kind of tailgate outside. We're sitting outside the trunk of my car. We see another car pull up. A gentleman and a cute girl get out of the car, and she's wearing these like adorable sneakers. They look kind of Christmassy.
Yeah.
And my friend Jessie's like, you think they're going to Goose? And I was like, I don't know. I'm just random people at a Wawa in Virginia. And she's like, I'm going to ask them. So they like come back with their sandwiches and they're hanging out. And she's like, hey, you guys going to Goose? And they're like, yeah, we are. And so we start talking. They're from North Carolina. And Mike is like, very casually, he's like, oh, Goose is kind of new to us, but our main band is the Dave Matthews Band. And the gentleman was like, yeah, I'm kind of familiar with them. And Mike was like, oh, yeah, well, Mike, my wife and I have a podcast. He's like, just, talking about posters.
Right,
and
of
he's
course.
like, you going to go get posters at the Goose Show? And the guy was like, yeah. He's like, you know what? I also have a podcast about Dave Matthews Band. And Mike's like, really? What's your podcast? He's like, Corner of Gray Street. I'm Nolan. And we were like, are you kidding me?
No way. What are the chances?
Randomly meeting Nolan from the Corner of Gray Street at a gas station, Wawa, on our way to see Goose in Virginia.
Holy crap. That's crazy. I mean, but it was meant to be. Those kind of like serendipitous moments where things happen and you're like, okay, I was just meant to be meeting you. Those guys are doing some great things. And I listened to their episode just the other day, and I want to say they said something like they've been doing it for years.
Yeah, I think they're like 5
years.
years in. Yeah.
I had no idea. I mean, because podcasts to me are just still such a new thing. Like, I didn't really
Hmm.
find out that world of podcasting until COVID, and we were
Yeah.
kind of like looking for information, looking for things to do. And podcast was just something that kind of stuck out to me. But yeah, those guys are killing it. I love the guests that they
Yes.
have. So many interesting people. Like, I listened to one the other day when I was driving to get my son from college. I can't think of whoever just did the live stream, the company that did the live stream in Europe.
Oh,
Bagaro. No, that's not right. Something
yeah.
like that. Anyways, they
Yep.
had them kind of on this
Oh,
show and
cool.
talked about the process of how that happened and like behind the scenes work of what it took to get to this point. And again, I'm just such a behind the scenes person. Like, I love all of that. And so that was so cool. And then, of course, we have the pod that Jane likes, which
Yeah.
again, just another amazing take on a fan's perspective, right? For fans' perspectives, they hit up a lot of shows, and again, they bring such statistical data to it because so many of us dig that, like, well, this is only
Yeah.
the 32nd time it's been played ever. Like, I dig that because
Hmm.
I just do. I love it, and so they are awesome. I got to meet three of them
Okay.
last year at the Woodlands, and I
Oh,
got a
cool.
picture with them, and I think I met up with all four of them in the pool, and then new to podcasting had my mic out in the pool like it was a wreck. It never made it
Oh
because
no.
you just don't put a microphone in the pool, Renae. But hey, live and learn, right? So it's exciting what everybody's doing in the podcast world. So definitely, if you're listening to this, be sure to check out Posters in Every Direction. So I
Yeah.
have to ask you, because you're such a poster head, like, can you name like what your favorite? Can you narrow it down to one?
Oh gosh. We talked about this the other day. Because Mike and we're actually going to talk about our favorite poster from Europe. We can do it like from the tour.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But if
But
I have to
not,
pick
yeah.
one overall, forever and ever, amen, I can never have another poster ever. I mean, that's like asking me to pick my favorite child, Renae. Because I appreciate them. I have an art history background, and I appreciate them for the artistry that they are. I mean,
Mhm.
if I have to go like classic, like what's my answer going to be? Like Chuck Sperry. We have a
Oof,
few
yeah.
Chuck Sperrys, which, if you're familiar, Harmonia is probably one of his most popular um, muses, and she was from the Gorge a couple years ago. She's the one that does the peace sign,
So beautiful.
um, which is absolutely so beautiful and so stunning. And it's a beautiful piece, and I'm so grateful to have it. I don't even know. I don't really honestly know if I can just pick one, because each artist has such a unique thing. And then the other side about it is like, that means that I have to pick the one that it was either at a show that I went to that's like a favorite one of
Yeah,
mine,
yeah.
or we also collect based on artists. So there's like a few different like
Sure. Yeah.
ways that you can collect. I have friends who are like, I will only get the poster if I went to that show. I'm
Yeah,
like, God
yeah,
bless you.
yeah.
That's awesome. Unfortunately, I don't work that way.
Right. It's more about the artist and the art for you rather than
Yeah.
the emotional connection to it,
Yes.
which,
But the one that I think, if I have to say, like the one that felt the most um like important and momentous and the biggest connection is that there was a James Flames from Raleigh, North Carolina, from that July 2021 show.
yes.
That was the first show post COVID. That was our first pit experience.
Ooh.
And when I say I cried probably through like a 3/4 of that show, not sad, like it was like tears of
Yeah.
joy. They kept overflowing, because we lived for a year and a half with no live music.
Yes, we
And
did.
to be able to experience my favorite band with Mike, my favorite person, with 10,000 of our other best friends who
Right.
haven't experienced this, like, there was magic in the air that night.
Mm.
Like, when I say that, like, you could feel it,
Mm-hmm. You
and
could.
it still sits with me. And so when I see that poster, like, if I have to really pick one, that's probably that one,
Oh, that's a
because it
good
just
one.
means so much. The memories are so hardcore ingrained in my brain,
Mm-hmm.
that it's like the happiest, joyous, most wonderful thing in the world.
It's funny that you mentioned that one. I mean, I literally have it hanging on my wall right over there. And so for that, yes, it's beautiful. And
Hmm.
for more than anything, it is such an emotional poster for me
Yes.
because, I was lucky enough to be there too. And like you said, it just felt different than any other show I had gone to because we showed up with such a joy to even be there, but such a need to
Yes.
to see these people and to reconnect with them and to reconnect with the music and the boys and all the energy that they like pour out to us. And so, I needed that. But time and time again, when people talk about posters, to me, that is the one
Yes.
because of that emotion that we have attached to that night. And someone the other day told me that they did such a great job in creating the art for that poster because it has the friends sitting there
Yep.
together, and I mean you couldn't have done better for
No.
that
And
particular show.
James's work always has just such a joy about it. There is a lightness to his art. And so, again, I think whoever at Red Light Management was working on scheduling the posters for that year, just nail on the head. I think me and all of our friends, such a happy human race. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I like when I have to think of a song that might go with that poster, it's like Tripping Billies,
Oh
like
yeah,
Eat, Drink, and Be Merry, For Tomorrow We Die. Like,
that's right.
there is no, I got chills just thinking about it. And I actually, it's on my wall of flames. So
Yeah.
like, as you're looking at it right in front of you, I'm looking over here to my right, to it because it's just, that I think is the biggest piece for me, about the band and about poster collecting as like a side thing, but like
Mm-hmm.
those core memories that we create with our friends in moments, that only exist right then and there. Right.
Yeah.
We can go back and like if I took a video or if it's a Friday concert session or if it becomes a live track, like I can relive that auditory like
Right.
moment.
Right.
But like you said, being at that Raleigh show in 2021, post COVID, not even, it was still sort of in the middle of the
We
mess.
were.
We were in the middle of the mess, but it was like you just showed up and like I hadn't seen that many people in a year and a half in one place. Like
Right.
it was overwhelming, but it was also like so momentous to be able to put your feet on the ground and literally just absorb the music in that moment. I have no photos. I think I have one picture from that night. I have no
You're living in the
videos.
moment. Living in the
No, my
moment.
phone was in my bag or my pocket. Like I didn't take it out once because I literally was like mesmerized by what was happening in front of me, and I knew I needed to just be there
Mm-hmm.
100% in the moment.
Yeah, such an emotional concert. It's definitely one that will stick out forever and
Yep.
ever. Amen. There
Yes.
you go.
Yes.
Well, let's do it. Are you ready for some Dave Matthews Band trivia?
I
This
will
is my
try my
favorite.
best.
This is my favorite. And I told Erica before we started recording, I was like, if you're watching this on YouTube, you're going to see this, but I carry around this nerdy binder that I keep typing up all my Dave Matthews Band information in. But it's brought a lot of good times. And for people that get it, even if we don't necessarily know the trivia questions, and that's what I always tell my guests, like, hey, if you don't know the answers, that's cool. I wouldn't know them either, should they not be right in front of me.
Okay.
But it gives us an opportunity to learn more about this band, which I know that you're into. I'm definitely into. I want to know all the behind the scenes and concert vids. 30, what's it, 36, 32, 34? Oh shit, I'm 34. I love you.
Hey,
He
Marcus.
he posted a story about Buddy because Buddy's celebrating an anniversary with the band and just all the things that Buddy has brought to the band, but then also Buddy's background and where he came from and things he did before this. And I just dig that because what you've done before made you the person that you are now that we adore so much. And so I really dig I just dig that so much. And so that's what trivia continues to do for me, is it just kind of gives me more information about the people that I love so much. So Here's how we're going to do it. I'm going to read off some questions. And for those of you that may be listening to this or watch this, I want you to play along as well. So we're going to leave a little bit of room after I read the question. If you know it immediately, just hold on for a little bit. I'm going to read it a second time, let you think about it, let them think about it. And then if you know the answer, boom, you can do it. And if not, well, this will just be an education piece, right?
Great.
Okay. We're going to start out this way because I think it's perfect for this episode. Okay, I'm going to give you some song lyrics, and you're going to tell me which song this is from.
Oh, shit.
All of the captain's cards are kings. I'm going to read that one more time. All of the captain's cards are kings. And so that line comes from one of the songs of the Dave Matthews Band.
Oh my gosh. I can hear it in my brain.
Oh yeah. It's so hard. Like I can sing the song, but it's like I can't give you the name. It's just the way my brain works.
Oh my gosh, I really feel like I should know this.
You should, because we've talked about this in a way already on this podcast.
Is it Tripping Billies?
No.
All of the captain's cards are kings. Why is my brain not working?
Because you're on the spot. I mean, that's what it
am.
is. Yeah. If this were multiple choice, you'd be like, that's easy.
Probably.
I mean,
I can hear it.
It's a name of it's kind of a name of a podcast.
Oh, the song that Jane likes?
Yes.
That was a really good clue.
Well, we talked about them. Shout out to them.
I can hear it.
Sure.
It's like playing in my brain, and I was like, "Where is it?" Now
Right.
you say, I'm like, "Oh, yeah, song that Jane
Exactly.
likes."
I got it. I know that is how it works for me too. Okay, some more song lyrics. She comes to me. I watch her drink. I watch her comb her hair. And I purposely say it. I'm not going to sing it. There's just, you don't want it. I don't want it. Nobody wants it. So I'm going to read it. She comes to me. I watch her drink. I watch her comb her hair. Oh, and I wish I could sing it, because if I could, then it would be easier. But I can't sing like Dave.
It's recently.
Yes, it is.
Wait a minute. I'm like, I know this one.
He sings that line in such a certain way, like his voice kind of does magic, and I have zero magic. So shout out, Dave. You're doing so good. You're so good. Okay, here we go. Let's do that third. We'll do one more that's song lyrics, and then we'll jump to something a little bit different. I'm going crazy, and it's all 'cause of you. It's all 'cause of you. I'm going under over you. This time now is so alive.
Ooh.
I'm going to read it one more time for those of you playing at home or at work or wherever you might be, mowing the grass. I mean, we got to fit podcasts in when we can, right? Sometimes it's just in the shower and you've got the speaker going. Okay. I'm going crazy, and it's all 'cause of you. It's all 'cause of you. I'm going under over you. This time now is so alive.
So right.
Yes. One of my favorites. I love everything about that song, like everything, but that line, I'm going under over you, like those 3 words or 4 words. Like I was like, oh, what a cool play, like to put under and over together, but it's like the perfect, like genius. These boys are genius. I love it so much.
Love
okay.
it.
Let's see. Let's move to something that's not lyrics, because those are things that you already know. And so let's see what you don't know. How about that, Erica? Or what you? Yeah. Let's move into that. Okay. Let's see. Or you might. Hell, I don't know.
Like musically, it's one of those things where like you can hear, I have this weird like sound auditory ability to hear a few little notes and be like, oh, that's going to be this song. And it's a weird thing. But like when you ask me lyrics that are just spoken in the middle of a song, that I would tell you if I could hear the first couple notes of it.
Right.
Totally different.
Or even hear them. Yeah. If I could hear them, just the music that even accompanied those words, I could probably do it. But it's hard to separate the lyrics and the music. I like them together.
That's what makes it magic.
It is. It is so much magic. Okay, let's see. Well, we'll take this in a very different direction. This is really kind of digging into who these guys are before they were the Dave Matthews Band. Dave Matthews was raised as part of what religious denomination? And
I have to wait on that one.
I know I'm reading that, and I hear y'all thinking like, okay, that is a random question. Yes, but also it's talked about throughout everything that you'll read.
He's recently spoken about it.
So I'll read that one more time. Dave Matthews was raised as part of what religious denomination? Do you know the answer, Erica?
Yeah, he's a Quaker.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, and he's spoken about it multiple times recently. You've kind of heard him when he kind of has gone into his belief structure about, peace and love. And so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the more you know.
Man, the myth, the legend.
The more you know. Okay. What year did the listener-supported concert/recording happen? Do you know what year that was? For those of you that are listening at home, listener supported is definitely one of those albums that people are going to go, hey, watch it. Hey, listen to it. What year was that?
My brain wants to say like 1998, but I don't think it was that early.
It was actually 1999.
I was close. Okay, so yeah, I was like, it wasn't in the 2000s, but 97 seems to, 99. That makes sense.
September 11th, 1999.
Right around the time Mike and I started dating. So we would have probably listened to listener support.
Of course you did. Absolutely. Such a good one. Such a good one. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see. Let's do one more. Okay, let's take it back even further, and we'll talk a little bit more about this particular person here in just a minute. The Dave Matthews Band member Boyd Tinsley released his own solo album titled what? So Boyd Tinsley was the violin / fiddle, whatever you want to call it. He was part of the band for a very long time, and he went off and kind of did his own little solo album. Do you know what it was called? Go ahead.
My timing was good. Is it True Reflections?
It is.
Yeah.
Boom. Yeah.
Right around the same time Dave released Some Devil, I believe.
I mean, it was just a time of exploring like, okay, what can I do with different people, and that's cool. I love Some Devil. There's nothing that I don't love. But let's talk about Boyd Tinsley as we close this episode. So we've all heard, obviously, the Dave Matthews Band is getting inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this October. It's kind of like my team is going to the Super Bowl. I'm like, or already won the Super Bowl. Like, I'm like, we have done it. We have achieved greatness.
Every day I'm like, I'm voting. I'm like, these guys better get it.
Yeah. And if nothing else, I mean, for 2 years in a row now, we've won the fan vote, which I know is whatever. It is what it is. But also I think it was a great just voice of the fans to support the band. Say like, listen, even if you don't get in, you need to know that we got your back and we love you. We want you, but if you don't get in, we still want you. And so I'm excited that they are going to be inducted this October. So with that, of course, opened up a lot of questions like, well, who is going to be inducted, because the Dave Matthews Band, the way it currently looks, is not the way it's always looked. Of course, they have had they had a death in the band. And then, we've had the entrance of Jeff, the entrance of Rashawn, the entrance of Buddy. And so, we've had some change. And of course, we had Peter, we had Butch, we've had some different people. And so what does an induction look like that has members that were part of the start but no longer part of the band? Of course, we've all heard that Boyd's been invited. And then I've also heard, will he show up? I don't know the answers to any of that. I don't think anybody does except for those people, the band themselves. But, I'm so excited that they have made it. But, what are your thoughts? Do you have any thoughts on like any of that? I mean, it's all just guesses and speculation, but like,
as somebody who's listened to Dave for 30 years and has kind of, again, experienced all the iterations of the band, first of all, I think where they're at now is the best that they've ever been.
Yes, I agree,
Like
100%.
the I was actually just talking. I should have worn my Be Strong T-shirt because I'm a buddy, as the kids say, I'm a Buddy stan, whatever that
Hmm.
means.
Uh,
I love
oh, it's
Buddy.
a fan because
I'm like,
Stan
yeah,
comes
from
from an
like
Eminem
Eminem,
song. Yeah, 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 yeah. I love
right?
that.
That's what the kids say. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm sure all the kids are listening right now. They're like, no,
Of
that's
course
not
they
how it
are to
works.
a Dave Matthews Band concert or Dave Matthews Band
But
podcast.
I'm a huge I love Buddy. I think that what he has brought musically and energetically to the band is just, it's, I think that's not just, I mean, I love Jeff and I love Rashawn, and I think the core, the Stefan, Carter, Dave, Tim has always been like that core.
Hmm.
But the uniqueness and the vocality and the like the funk and the
Yeah.
Buddy's just, so as of right now, like how the band is kind of made up is one of my favorite iterations
Hmm.
of the band. And you'll
Hmm.
hear like, oh, I remember that was a Butch Taylor, like, yeah, little Linus and Lucy, that was a
Hmm.
moment that, he had a certain sound to him, and each piece is unique and different. And I will
Yeah.
say, you've got the fiddle is missing in the musicality of the Dave Matthews Band now versus I don't think you need it camps.
Right. Right.
There's sort of a mix between, and we've had amazing guests like Mike and I talk about that. They played the Hollywood Bowl with, I think it's an Anna Marie Simpson, I think. She's like the wife to like the lead singer of Primus or something like that, but she is
Oh,
like a concert fiddleist. Like she
wow.
plays, yeah. And she came out and did a guest spot with them because they had like the whatever, the Hollywood symphony or something like that. I mean, you got to catch that show. And it
What
was a
year
few
was
years
this?
ago. This
Oh,
was just a few years ago, like maybe 21 or
okay. Okay.
22.
Okay.
Um,
Okay.
but she came out and did Tripping Billies and Ants Marching, and you get like a little bit of a feel of that. And you realize that maybe not necessarily it's because of the person that's playing it, but it is the unique sound
Hmm.
that the fiddle brings to
Sure.
the makeup of the band.
Yeah.
Whether Boyd comes or not, like, that's got to be a personal decision and a personal
Yeah.
choice of whether
Yeah.
he shows up. I mean, I don't know, we don't all know the story and the history and what happened and what went down. And I don't think we'll ever be privy to that. And that's okay.
And that's okay. Yeah.
Um, but that is such a momentous thing for the band themselves to have the honor. And now, not just that, but like the acknowledgement.
Yes.
I actually said something to someone the other day, and I was like, yeah, we're going to go see Dave. And they're like, they're still playing? It's like,
Right. People
I'm
don't
going to
know.
throttle you right now.
People don't know, and that blows my mind. But also at the same time, there are bands out there that I don't know about. So
Yeah.
it's just the world
And,
we live
and,
in.
and, to each their own, but, it's like, what a momentous thing
Hmm.
for the band of 30 plus years to be working their asses off, to be bringing joy and memories, and be able to have conversations like this across the
Hmm.
globe, for a specific set of music that has been, honestly, it's the soundtrack of my life.
Me
There's really
too.
there's not been a time since I was a teenager that I haven't had Dave Matthews Band playing somehow as the
Yeah.
soundtrack of my life.
Yeah.
And obviously it's interwoven into my marriage of 20 years and my children, and I've got tattoos and like,
Yeah.
there
Yeah.
is nothing that band hasn't touched for me in my life, and I am beyond grateful for that. And like they get a gold check mark to be like, we're in the Rock and
Yeah.
Roll Hall of Fame. Hell yeah, they should absolutely be there.
Yeah. Yeah. What an honor. I mean, I this is going to sound crazy, but that's just, whatever I am. I have already bought airfare there. I don't know or think that I'll be getting in, but honey, I will be on the sidewalk with my sign going, I fucking love you. Congratulations. Like I'm all in for you. So I'll be that girl outside with the sign.
I'm half tempted. We got some friends in Cincinnati that we are overdue for a visit, but it's also like, got so much stuff happening this year.
Oh, I know,
already.
I know. My husband's like, Renae, for real? And I'm like, this is the Super Bowl. Yes, I will
true.
go.
It is true. And what an adventure that will be.
I can't wait. I can't wait for that for sure. Well, it's just going to be, God, it's like a few days away before we get to
Yes.
meet and I don't know when this is going to air. So obviously we're going to have already met by the time this comes out. So
That's
it was so good
awesome.
to meet you. It was great to meet you. And, talk to your kids because if they're open, I'm always looking for the new generation of fans to talk to them to see, was it your parents that is this the reason why you listen? Is this the
Hmm.
reason why you're here? Or are you here because you actually love it? And tell me why. I just think that that's so interesting. And I wish I would have been that cool at that age, because I did have the opportunity. Like they were around. The band came out when I was 11. So I could have been that cool, but I just have never been. So your kids are cool already.
Well, thank you. I think if you ask them, they would be like, "Well, that's because my mom and dad drag us to the shows because they want to go on vacations." But when you see that moment where their song comes on and their face lights up,
Yeah, that's it.
that's the magic that whether they continue to listen to the Dave Matthews Band or not. As they get older, whether they pick up their own music again, Dave for me was like, oh, this is my music. This is not my
Mm-hmm.
parents' music. This is not my
Right.
grandparents' music. This is mine. It belongs to me.
Right. Right. No, I feel the same
um,
way.
and whether or not that's their band or they have another band that they love down the road that comes and changes their world,
Right.
but at least at the end of the day, I hope that they get to experience what we get to experience as Dave fans
Mm-hmm.
with whatever music they choose.
Exactly. Yeah. I hope that for my children too. What a gift it's been, what a gift it continues to be every single
Yeah.
day. And with, a new tour opens up opportunities to have new adventures and meet new people. And, I am so excited about going and hearing the music. But honestly, if we're being super, super honest, I'm more excited about seeing all of the fans that come out to hear the music because that's just where my
Same.
heart is right now. And, that can change, but like right
Yeah.
now I'm just so in love with the fans of this band. It's just such a big group of people that really are kind of carrying out the mission of, like you said, that the Dave Matthews Band preaches about is love. And so, that is forever on the tips of everyone's tongues to talk about that. And so thank you for joining my little podcast to talk, more about this band that we love so much and all of our adventures that we've had with them. Everybody again has such a different story. And so I'm on a mission to, I always say I'm on a mission. I've got 34,900 more stories to collect because there's only 35,000, right? And so I've
That's
done
right. That's right.
100.
We're just
Actually, you're into the 110. So I'm going.
yay.
So, if you're
Woo-hoo.
listening to this and you're like, hey, I'd really love to share my story, it's just as easy as you reaching out to me on any of the socials and saying, hey, I'd love to share my journey with you. And really, it's just that easy. It's just me and you. It's not live. It's not weird, I don't think. But, thank you so much for being willing to share your journey. And I can't
Absolutely.
wait to see you on the road. And I can't wait to,
Yeah.
I just can't wait to see everybody. But in the meantime, guys, be sure to, of course, follow us on everything Facebook. It's just simply the Space Between Podcast, but that is a group. So look for that. On Instagram, it's the Space Between _POD. And then on TikTok, the Space Between Podcast. So you can connect with me and see where the space between, because I'm on the road this summer. I mean, chasing the band, chasing my
Yeah.
dreams. Like Dave says, dream, little darling, dream. Honey, my dreams are lofty and I'm going for them. So nothing's going to stop me.
Love
So
it.
follow me as I continue to reach out to the fans of the Dave Matthews Band. So again, Erica, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Renae.
All right. Until next time, guys, peace, love, and Dave Matthews Band.